If you planted a vegetable garden this summer and the sun cooked it alive, I need to tell you something important. You probably made the #1 mistake almost every backyard grower makes. You tried to fight nature instead of working with it. Today, I'm going to show you 7 plants that do not merely survive brutal heat and drought. They actually thrive in it. These are plants that laugh at 40 hours you saw sunlight, keep growing with very little irrigation once established, and can give you dozens, sometimes hundreds of kilos of food year after year. And here is the part most people never discover. One of these plants can produce more food per hectare than almost any crop most gardeners know, and it comes from our own American continent. Stay with me until the end, because plant number 7 may be one of the most important food security crops you have never grown. But before we get there, let me paint a picture you may already know too well. It is June. It is 1:30 in the afternoon. The thermometer is showing 39 degrees in the shade, and not one drop of rain has fallen for 3 straight weeks. You walk outside with a cup of coffee, hoping your garden is holding on, and what do you see? The tomato plants look like wet paper. The beans have given up. The squash is lying on the ground as if it melted overnight. And here is the uncomfortable truth nobody tells beginner gardeners. Tomatoes begin to shut down when temperatures climb above about 35 degrees C. Their flowers fail, fruit stops setting, cell function gets stressed, and the plant goes from productive to survival mode very quickly. In many parts of Latin America, this is no longer some rare heat wave. This is becoming a normal June afternoon. Northern Mexico, the Paraguayan Chaco, the dry valleys of Bolivia, northern Argentina, the Peruvian coast, and hotter inland Central America are all dealing with longer, hotter, drier growing seasons. The problem is that many vegetables we plant in home gardens are annuals. Every season they start from zero. Tiny plant, shallow roots, fragile stem, full exposure to the sun. When a hard drought arrives, an annual crop often has only one option: collapse. Perennial plants are different. They have been building underground for years. They send roots deep into the soil. Some can reach 6 or 7 meters down, drinking from water reserves your lettuce, beans, and tomatoes will never touch. But be careful, because this is where many people fail. They hear the phrase drought-tolerant plant. They plant it, barely water it during the first year, and then it dies. Then they say, "See, this plant doesn't work here." That is the mistake we are going to fix today. I am not just going to tell you what to plant. I am going to explain how these plants survive, what early mistake kills them, and which ones make the most sense depending on your region. So if this kind of practical, climate-smart gardening is what you love, this is exactly the road we are building here at Root Garden Wisdom. Subscribe to the channel, leave us a like, share this with that uncle who has a little piece of land in the countryside, and let's begin. Plant number 1, mesquite. The first plant on our list is a tree that people from northern Mexico and the American Southwest know very well, and to me, it is one of the greatest teachers of survival in dry land. The mesquite tree. This is the tree that stays green in the middle of the desert, while everything around it has turned into dry branches, cracked soil, and dust. Just imagine that for a second. Goats are struggling to find shade. The ground is burning hot, and there stands the mesquite. Calm, alive, with soft green leaves, almost as if the drought does not scare it. Why does that happen? Because mesquite roots go deep, very deep. They can reach underground water sources far below the surface, while the top layer of your soil is split open like old clay. The mesquite is quietly drinking from water hidden far beneath your feet. Its leaves are small and divided into tiny leaflets, which helps the tree lose as little water as possible under the brutal sun. It is a natural survival design. And the pods, those pale, sweet mesquite pods, are high-quality food for people and animals. Indigenous peoples of northern Mexico and the southwestern United States traditionally ground those pods into flour. Mesquite flour is naturally sweet, gluten-free, and rich in nutrients. Livestock love it too. Goats, horses, cattle, even backyard animals will eat it eagerly. In times of drought, a small stand of mesquite trees could help keep an entire family alive. But here is the most common mistake. Drought-tolerant does not mean drought-proof during the first year. Mesquite needs deep watering every 7 to 14 days during its first 1 or 2 years, while its root system is still establishing itself underground. After that, everything changes. Once the roots are deep enough, the tree barely needs you anymore. And there is one more beautiful detail. Mesquite also fixes nitrogen in the soil. So while it gives you shade, food, and animal feed, it is also improving the land beneath it. 3 gifts from one tree. That is why mesquite deserves the first place on this list. Plant number 2, pomegranate. Now let's move to a fruit with a long and powerful history. biblical history, Persian history, Mediterranean history, and a story that crossed oceans and settled beautifully into many Latin American climates, the pomegranate. And here is a beautiful detail. In old orchards across northern Argentina, central Chile, and the Mexican Bajío, you can still find pomegranate shrubs more than 40 years old, producing 80 or even 90 kilos of fruit in a single season. Let that number sink in for a moment. This is not a fragile fruit tree that gives you a few good years and then disappears. This is a long-term producer. The pomegranate does not just tolerate heat. It actually needs heat to develop that deep, rich sweetness in the fruit. Long, dry, blazing summers are not a problem for it. They are part of what makes the fruit so good. And while many fruit trees struggle in alkaline, salty, poor, or rocky soils, the kind of soil many people have in village lots, dry farms, and city outskirts, the pomegranate simply accepts it and keeps growing. Most people think a fruit tree has to be delicate. They imagine pruning calendars, spraying schedules, special fertilizers, and a degree in agriculture just to keep it alive. But the pomegranate is not that kind of plant. It can grow as a multi-stemmed shrub or be trained into a single-trunk tree. You can use it as a living fence, plant it as a standalone tree in the backyard, or place it at the edge of your land as a windbreak. And it can keep producing for decades with very little help from you. One pomegranate in the back of the house can give you enough fruit for fresh juice through the end of summer. And as a bonus, its bright flowers attract hummingbirds, which makes the garden feel alive in a completely different way. But if we are going to talk about true drought tolerance, real extreme drought tolerance, then we need to talk about a plant that can survive soil surface temperatures of 65 °C. Yes, you heard that correctly. Plant number 3, nopal or prickly pear cactus. Most crops begin to suffer when temperatures rise above 35 harder, but nopal is different. This cactus, known across Mexico and now grown throughout many parts of Latin America, can keep going when the heat becomes almost unbearable. In fact, while many garden plants are shutting down, nopal can continue growing under extreme heat, even when the soil surface becomes scorching. And the secret is fascinating. Most plants breathe during the day. They open tiny pores on their surface, take in carbon dioxide, and lose water at the same time. In a desert climate, that is a dangerous trade. Opening those pores under brutal midday sun is like leaving the door open while your water tank is leaking. Nopal uses a smarter strategy. Botanists call it cam photosynthesis. Instead of opening its pores during the hottest part of the day, nopal keeps them closed. Then, in the cool hours before sunrise, it opens them, absorbs carbon dioxide, and stores what it needs for later. By the time the sun is high, it has already done the hard work without wasting precious water. Its root system is another miracle of design. Nopal roots are not usually deep like mesquite roots. They are shallow, but they spread wide, reaching out in many directions to capture every tiny bit of moisture from dew, light rain, or brief storms. And here is what surprises many people. Nopal is not just a survival plant, it is a production plant. It gives you 2 harvests. First, the green pads, the nopalitos, which can be cooked with onion, added to salads, served in tacos, or eaten with beans and eggs. Then comes the fruit, the tuna, sweet and colorful at the end of summer, full of flavor and antioxidants. And there is one more advantage that almost nobody talks about. In dry areas where wildfire is a risk, a thick line of nopal planted around a property can help act as a living firebreak. The pads are full of water, so flames have a much harder time moving through them. So yes, nopal gives food, fruit, resilience, and protection, all from a plant many people still underestimate. Plants number 4 and 5, fig tree and mulberry. So far, we have talked about a desert tree, a heat-loving fruit shrub, and a cactus that can handle extreme conditions. But now, let's bring 2 ancient food trees into the picture, the fig tree and the mulberry. Both are old, both are incredibly productive, and together they create one of the strongest drought-resistant combinations you can plant at the back of a yard or small homestead. Let's begin with the fig tree. The fig has one of the most intelligent drought responses in the plant world. When water becomes scarce, it can drop its leaves on purpose. It basically says, I'm not wasting energy right now. Then it pulls resources back into the trunk and roots to protect the living heart of the tree. This is why a fig tree can look almost dead during a severe dry spell and then suddenly come back to life after the first good rain. Once moisture returns, it pushes out new leaves and can begin producing again surprisingly fast. And the production is impressive. Many fig varieties can give you 2 crops a year. The first one comes in spring, usually lighter, on branches from the previous year. The second comes near the end of summer, and that is usually the larger, sweeter, heavier harvest. Even better, figs can start producing very young. A simple cutting taken from an older tree can become a fruiting plant in just a couple of years. That means a branch from your grandmother's fig tree could become your own backyard harvest faster than many people imagine. Now, let's talk about the mulberry. Most people focus on the fruit, and yes, the berries are wonderful. A mature mulberry can cover the ground with sweet, juicy, dark fruit. Children love them, chickens go crazy for them, and you can use them for jam, juice, desserts, or even homemade country wine. But the real hidden value of the mulberry is not just in the berries. It is in the leaves. Mulberry leaves can contain high levels of protein, sometimes reaching around 30% depending on variety and growing conditions. That makes them extremely valuable as animal feed. In an integrated backyard system, you can prune the mulberry and give the leafy branches to chickens, ducks, rabbits, goats, or other small livestock. And this matters most during the hardest part of summer, when grass dries out, pasture turns yellow, and feed becomes expensive. The mulberry keeps growing, keeps re-sprouting, and keeps turning sunlight into food. So with figs and mulberries, you are not just planting fruit trees. You are planting shade, resilience, animal feed, sweetness, and long-term food security in the same corner of your land. Plant number 6, Pigeon Pea, also known as gandul, guandu, frijol de palo, tree bean, or quinchoncho, depending on the region. Now, if you live in a place where the heat sits at $40 for weeks at a time, and you want something like a bean that will not collapse during the first brutal dry spell, this is the plant you need to know. In the Caribbean, northern South America, much of Central America, and many dry areas of the southern cone, pigeon pea has earned its place as a survival crop. While ordinary beans struggle, wilt, or stop producing under extreme heat, pigeon pea keeps standing. It can handle long, hot periods, poor soils, and dry conditions far better than most annual legumes. Pigeon pea is a short-lived perennial legume. It usually lives around 3 to 5 years, which means you do not have to restart from zero every season. It produces protein-rich seeds, often around 20% or more protein, and at the same time, it improves the soil by fixing nitrogen, and that is one of its biggest gifts. We are talking about nitrogen pulled from the air and placed back into the soil through its root system. In practical terms, pigeon pea can act like free fertilizer for the plants around it. But here is where many small growers make a mistake. They treat pigeon pea like an ordinary bean. They plant it in rows, harvest the seeds, pull it out, and lose most of its real value. The smarter way is to use pigeon pea as a nurse plant for young fruit trees. Plant it near a young pomegranate, fig tree, mesquite, or any new food tree. It gives light shade during the hottest part of the day, protects the soil from baking, feeds the ground with nitrogen, and still gives you a protein harvest. That is not just a crop, that is a small, self-sustaining system. And culturally, this plant is not foreign to us at all. In Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Panama, and other regions, rice with pigeon peas is food for Sundays, celebrations, and Christmas tables. So maybe the real discovery is not learning something new. It is remembering something our cultures already knew. Plant number 7, Jerusalem artichoke, also known as sunchoke or topinamber. At the beginning of this video, I promised you there was one plant most people have never even heard of. A perennial food crop so tough, so productive, and so underestimated that its numbers almost sound impossible. This is that plant. Jerusalem artichoke is not an artichoke, and it does not come from Jerusalem. It is actually a perennial sunflower native to North America and underground. It produces edible tubers that look a little like small, knobby pieces of ginger. And here is the number that should make every gardener stop and pay attention. Under favorable conditions, Jerusalem artichoke can produce extremely high yields, with reports reaching up to 90 tons per hectare. To give you a comparison, a strong corn crop might produce around 10 or 12 tons per hectare. That means this plant has the potential to produce several times more food from the same area. So how does it survive heat and drought? When water becomes scarce, Jerusalem artichoke does something bold. Instead of simply shutting down, it expands its root system. It grows more roots to search for more water. It also stores energy underground, where the tubers are protected from surface heat, harsh sun, and many animals. You harvest those underground tubers after the first cool weather of the year, when the plant has sent its energy back down into the soil. And this is where the crop becomes even more interesting. The tubers are rich in inulin, a type of fiber that behaves differently from regular starch. Because of that, Jerusalem artichoke is often discussed as a valuable food crop for people thinking about blood sugar management, gut health, and long-term food security. It is not a magic cure, of course, but as a resilient staple crop, it deserves far more attention than it gets. And once you plant it, it is determined to stay. It can reach 2 or 3 meters tall, shade out weeds, multiply underground, and return year after year with very little help. Some people call it the plant you can never get rid of. For a neat ornamental garden, that might sound like a problem. But for a backyard designed around food security, resilience, and survival, that sounds exactly like the kind of problem we want. Let's do a quick recap. 7 plants that keep producing where ordinary garden crops often fail. Number 1, mesquite. Green in the desert, sweet pods, gluten-free flour, animal feed, shade, and nitrogen for the soil. Number 2, pomegranate, a heat-loving fruit tree that handles poor alkaline soil, works beautifully as a living fence, and can produce for decades. Number 3, nopal, a cactus that gives you edible pads, sweet fruit, incredible water efficiency, and even a living barrier against fire. Number 4, fig tree, a survivor that can drop its leaves during drought, wait for the rain, and come back with fruit. Number 5, mulberry, fruit for the family, leaves for chickens and livestock, shade for the yard, and protein when summer pasture dries out. Number 6, pigeon pea, the drought-resistant bean that feeds people, fixes nitrogen, protects young fruit trees, and keeps the soil alive. And number 7, Jerusalem artichoke, a forgotten American food crop with massive production potential, underground tubers, inulin-rich fiber, and serious value for long-term food security. So that is what we have for today here at Root Garden Wisdom. If you want to keep learning how to grow food with the climate instead of fighting against it, leave us a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with that friend who says it is too hot to plant anything, because the truth is the opposite. We have some of the richest growing regions on Earth. We just need to choose the right plants. Tell me in the comments, what country and region are you watching from, and which of these 7 plants do you already have in your yard? The video on your screen now connects directly with this one. Watch that next, and I'll see you there.